Do you find that eye contact makes people feel uncomfortable, or do you think it helps?
Depends on how you do it.
All right.
I'm like gazing by just to be like, I'm not like, don't you think that's funny? Like, it's more of like a,
that might be funny though, for the right person.
Yeah.
Style is more than just the clothes you wear. It's the essence of who you are, and it's in everything you do. Discover it here and unleash your style beyond what you wear. Welcome back to How's the Style. I'm your host, Grant Alexander, and today we've got a guest whose story is guaranteed to bring some laughs and a whole lot of inspiration. Today we are sitting down with the social media adored and incredibly talented stand-up comedian, Josh Ocean Thomas. Josh is known for his high energy, magnetic stage presence and hilarious, relatable stories. So thank you very much for being here.
Magnetic.
I feel like you're magnetic.
I like that. I appreciate that. I wrote that in my own bio, actually.
So it's pretty spot on. Yeah.
I like that. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to be here, Grant.
Thank you for being
Grant
here.
Alexander. What a name.
Grant Alexander. Thank you very much.
Very, very constitutional name. I like that name. Grant Alexander.
That's what my parents were going for.
Good. It's good. It's good to be here, Grant.
So I want to dive into how your unique style developed, how your journey through comedy shapes your perspectives and decisions, and what it takes to bring such vibrancy and energy to the stage and to life. Well, so let's dive into that. I want to start with the early influences in childhood. Like you started off as a child magician.
Yeah, that's true.
What got you into entertaining? What made you know you wanted to be on stage in front of people?
Well, I'm still developing, obviously, both comedically, mentally, and physically. But I think it started a long time ago. I was really an over-the-top kid, very annoying, very loud.
I couldn't tell.
Very jazz-handy kid. A lot of jazz hands my youth. And I have an outbreak once in a while, but they're settling down now. But I've always kind of into like being kind of very energetic. And like I said, when I was a kid, I did magic tricks. Like I did magic shows in my dad's backyard and would invite the neighbors. And then the magic shows turned into comedy shows, and I would sell tickets and rent party chairs, and we'd reconstruct the living room to look like a comedy club, and we'd get like 25, 30 neighbors in the living room. And so it was something I always wanted to do since I was like 14, 15. And then when I was 18, a family said, "Get out." No, they didn't say that. But I moved to Chicago, right across the way.
Awesome.
And you can't see it, but there's a place where I lived over there. And I moved here, and I went to college here, and I started studying at Columbia College Chicago. I studied comedic writing and performance, and I was confused because it was the first time in my life where I saw other people pursuing this thing, and it was the first time I saw it being pursued seriously.
Sure.
So I didn't know what to do with it, and I didn't really want to do anything with it yet. I just wanted to enjoy being in college. And then like the flu went around or something and sent us home for like a year. And when we came back from that is when I started doing it. And I kind of just did what I thought was funny in comedy, and I wore a suit to every open mic. I was the best dressed guy at the dive bar at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday night. I'll tell you that much right now. I'd wear like a little linen suit, and it was very bad. And and I would tell jokes about like my mom or just physical, just making faces, and it was very. And I remember a comedian came up to me after my act, and he went, "That was not good," and I said, "Okay. We have some work to do here." And
Did you like that?
Yeah, it was kind of like wait.
Yeah.
Let me do something here. I'm working on something. And then my first open mic was a terrible experience. It was a terrible human experience. It was one of the worst experiences you can have as a person. It was a place on the South Side. It was called Riddle's Comedy Club, and it was a Monday night, and I was number 48 on a 51-person open mic. Ooh. I had class the next day at 8 a.m., and I waited, and I woke up to the sound of myself being introduced to the stage because I fell asleep in the back of the room. And there was 3 people on stage, number 49, 50, and 51. 52 went home already, and it was a terrible time. It was terrible, it was bad. But on my way home, I just remember thinking, like, I can't wait to get back on stage again.
Yeah.
And that's like a crazy thing to want after having such a bad experience.
I feel like that's a separator for people that like get it and like have such a passion for what they do. It's like no matter how tough something may be, it's like it doesn't matter. Like, you know, this is still what you want to do.
You just got to do it.
Yeah.
And so I just kept doing it, and I was like, I'll do it for another week, another 2 weeks. And then like 6.5 months passed, and I was like, whoa, I've kind of been doing this for 6 months. And I realized it when like my friends started like acknowledging that that's something I just do now.
Yeah. Is
these terrible open mics, which looking back is charming, but in the moment it was a terrible thing to be known for.
Sure.
It's like, that's the guy that does dive bars on the South Side on a Monday night. I'm like, hey, please, ladies. So my style started to develop once I stopped worrying so much.
Sure.
When I started just getting on stage and having fun.
Was there a moment that you realized, like that happened in where you're like, I need to just go out and have fun? Was it that where you were 48?
I think when it was the first time returning to my hometown with comedy experience. So now let's say I've been doing it for almost a year. Maybe less than that. Maybe like 7 months, 6 months. And I went back to San Diego and I booked a show. I booked a show at like a comedy club. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And
this is real. This is happening.
Real. And like 30 of my friends came out, and then there was like 20, 30 other regular people. So it was like my big crowd for me. And I remember just like doing a little bit of crowd work. And then like I just like asked some guy what he did for a living, made a stupid joke about it. And everyone laughed. And that first laugh, I was kind of like, oh, I wasn't even really trying. I was really just kind of being myself just there, like just goofy, schwanky, I'm very schwanky. And it was a great time. And then I started relying on that. I was like, if I just go up there and I just kind of like be goofy and be myself, while also I know that every comedian has their strength. Some comedians it's delivery. Some comedians it's confidence on stage. Some people it's being a good person off stage. Sometimes it's writing. A lot of comedians are great writers. I'm not a fantastic writer, but my jokes come from dialogue with friends. Sure. And then me being like, that's funny, let me throw that on stage. But I don't really write any of my jokes out. Like I don't have a single joke written out.
Really?
Yeah, I just kind of have ideas that I know are funny. And then you do it once or twice, so now I know how the joke goes.
And you just remember
and
all
then
them.
You just keep doing it, and every time you do it, you add a line, you take out a line. I never tell the joke the exact same way. So it's like something is always changing about the joke. So I have a joke now that's like a minute long, but started as like 3 minutes, where it's like, okay, now I like figured out how to trim all that fat down. And now I'm just doing this once. So I kind of go on stage with the loose, like I don't have like a running order. I have like normally a crumpled up piece of like, receipt paper.
Yeah.
I like I hit the feed button. That's what I like to write my sets on. And then I write like 1 or 2 words down for each joke. And I literally just like crumple it, put it in my pocket, and I pull it out. And I'm like, okay, those are the jokes I want to do today in no particular order. And then when I'm on stage, it kind of just starts to flow. So I started relying on that flow.
That's really interesting. I feel like most that I've heard of or know, or at least what I imagine, it would be you have a script and you follow that, and sure you can add or remove, but you stick to that, you practice that. I feel like one question I thought of was, is that what you learned in school? Do you feel like comedic writing is school for being a comedian worthwhile, or is do they teach you stuff that it's good foundationally, like the 3 times because that's funny, and you learn from that, or is it they say like, here's here's the style that you probably should go for, go with that, and then does it kind of constrain any of your creativity or your style or personality, or was it valuable? I think
what I took out of going to school for it was not how to be funny. It wasn't how to write funny. I think what I took out of it was how to treat it like a professional career. I think that's the knowledge I got.
Cool.
I think being around other professionals, and almost every comedian that I started with from my college quit by the time I started picking up speed.
Sure.
and picking up momentum. I started with a group of 15 people. I would lure out to mics every week, and then it's dwindled down. Most people in my department were into the sketch acting, writing of everything. So I was kind of one of the only stand-ups out of the thing. I was the only person that kind of really went down that route. But then, later in my college career, people started doing it as well. But
do you look down on sketch comics?
Absolutely not. I think it's so cool. I think it's hard.
So hard. Yeah.
I think it's really hard. I think it's I think it's work. I mean, it's a short sketch comedy is so cool, especially done right.
Right.
Which it's not always done right. And when it is done right, I think it's really incredible. And it's something I love to be a part of. Like I've had my sketch days. I hope my sketch days aren't over. I love acting. I like doing stuff like that. It's just not the thing that I found to be what I call like, my drive.
Sure.
My drive isn't, I want to be a sketch comedian and also do stand-up.
Sure.
Mine is like, I want to do stand-up comedy, and whatever comes with that, I'm so excited to be a part of.
Cool.
Yeah. Like I want to be a part of the whole world of comedy.
Nice.
But everyone's got their, everyone's got their focus. Everyone's got their thing. And mine was definitely stand-up in college. So I don't think my school really offered too much for that, for stand-up.
Yeah.
But, it encouraged me to like, teachers are like, telling me stories about, other comedians and how they do it, where to go. And, you meet all these people, and then there's a network of the school, in the real world. So, you mentioned the school. I went to that school. I know someone that went to that school. It taught me it introduced me to the real world of entertainment.
Sure. Is comedy a world where who is critical? Like who you know at clubs?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, meeting people.
Like getting a good slot, getting whatever it might be. Is that all on who?
It's all, there's plenty of comedians who have made it very far in their career without being the funniest comedian around.
Sure.
It's all about who you know. I think that's in every industry, though. It's all about who you know and all that. But it's also just like about it. Comedy, in my opinion, everyone has their own opinion on it. This is my opinion, is that being a good person is so important in this industry because there's so many people who are not.
Sure.
And not even being good, but being kind to other people and all that. And that's something people remember. But then you see a lot of people who do that because they know people are like, oh, he's nice. It's like, but then you got to be genuine. And I think for me, comedy has taught me how to be around so many people, so many different kinds of people, so many people from different backgrounds, stories, different kinds of humor.
Yeah.
It's put me around such a contrast of people where it's taught me how to adapt to different conversations and all that. And I'm 23 years old, so I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Sure.
But I from what I've experienced is that it's just taught me a lot about people.
Yeah.
In a good way. And it's taught me to love being around so many different kinds of people. And you meet people, and it's all about connections and building relationships. And there's no better feeling than walking to a comedy club and knowing all the staff by first name and feeling that family dynamic and hugging people. And it's nice to see you. How you been? How's your family? And it feels like a family. You want to walk into a comedy club, and when you feel like a family and you feel welcome there, there's no feeling like it.
I imagine that helps set up a better show for everybody.
When the vibes are good, everything is good.
I preach kindness. I'm pretty sure I bring it up in every episode. To me, it's the thing that people remember. Like,
totally.
I always say people remember your first impression that you leave, and they remember if you were kind and like how you made them feel. They don't remember anything else. And I think especially for whether it's comedian or musician or a stylist and entrepreneur, it's very much for House of Style, for the bigger business, we're trying to raise $42 million before we ever make $1.
You should have just asked. I could help out.
Now I know. Yeah. And when you're doing that, the way you treat people is so critical because they're like, who the F are you? I'm like, I'm nice.
I'm Grant Alexander, and I'm nice. I have $42 million.
Exactly. It's not that much. It's not that much.
It's a small loan.
Yeah. It's very tiny. But so I want to get into kind of the style in action, like right now, and how it's kind of helped your personal and professional growth more so like now, so a little less, but the early on. So your comedy brings, like I said before, this like vibrant energy, and some of it's, I think a lot of it's through crowd work. Like from what I see on socials, a lot of it's crowd work, and I am excited to go to your show after this to see it live and experience it. But how has like embracing your performance and your style like set you up for success? Like now, out of the doing all these little open mics, like as you get bigger and become like a household name in comedy?
When I walk on stage, it definitely is a different feeling than not being on stage, which is obvious, but I can't tap into that off stage. I've never been able to.
Sure.
the only time I can tap into that is like back home. I was a kayak tour guide, and when I would do those kayak tours, I could tap into it a little bit. But there's nothing quite like going on stage to, 150, 200 strangers who don't know who you are. They've never seen you before. They're only there because they're at the comedy club and you happen to be on the bill. And you're meeting all these people for the first time. So when I go up there, I want to bring this energy where it's like, I'm so excited to meet you.
Yeah.
Like I'm so genuinely, and I'm honestly so grateful every time I get to be on stage, because, I've had times where I can't be on stage for a long period of time because I'm, other things in life. So
Sure.
when I get on stage, it feels like this, okay, I'm meeting all these wonderful people. I don't know any of them. They don't know me, but you try to build a connection right away. And the only way to like try to tap into all those different people is by providing enough energy to be like, I got enough for all of us. So you guys don't worry.
Just enjoy yourself.
I got it.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm always scanning. I'm always making eye contact. And,
do you find that eye contact makes people feel uncomfortable, or do you think it helps?
Depends on how you do it.
All right.
I'm like gazing by just to be like, I'm not like, don't you think that's funny? Like it's more of like that
might be funny though, for the right person.
Yeah.
You
but
can try that out next time.
It's more like I'm looking around and I'm like you get it. Like I'm trying to have a conversation. And my favorite thing is like when you do that, you're looking at someone and they're going,
yeah.
And they're like listening.
Right.
And then when you see people listening, it's this kind of like you built this connection with a random person. And there's something special about having 200 people that don't know each other either. They come from different places, different economic classes, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and they're all coming together and laughing at one thing.
Yeah.
And it kind of builds this big connection. And then I love going to the lobby after and meeting people. And it's made me, it just makes me excited to be around new faces and to be around other comedians and be in the room when we're doing this. It's a special feeling.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like we were talking about this before we started, but to me, the things that bring people together and have the power to do that, it's like music, comedy, magic. And food too.
Food, yes. Yeah. Food is good.
And those are you musically inclined?
I played violin for a long, long time.
Really?
Yes.
And so played, you don't still?
I have one, and once in a while I'll pick it up.
All right.
I still got it. But yeah, I was a classical violinist, Suzuki trained. I was in the San Diego Youth Symphony for like 10 years.
Really?
Or 8 years. Yeah.
Why did you stop?
Sorry, Mom. My mother really loved it.
Yeah.
A lot as a kid. It was like one of her favorite things that I did. Her favorite thing that I did. And it kind of became this thing of, oh, why am I still doing this? I was like, I don't love it.
Get joy out of it, yeah.
I'm like, I like it. Well, I don't love it. I go, why am I trying to even pursue? I tried to like pursue it for a second.
But at this point though, after stopping, now are you like, oh crap, I wish I was still that good because it would have killed for this opportunity? Or
yes and no. Because it's like, it doesn't feel like it's gone. Maybe if it was gone, I'd be like, shit, what did I do?
I feel like you could probably like pick it up.
That's what I mean.
Something like really, really basic, and people are like, oh my gosh, he knows violin too.
Like I still like got it. Like I picked it up the other day, and I know where all the fingers go. Like I can still play it. I can still rip it up a little bit.
There you go.
So it's like, it doesn't feel like it's gone, and I don't regret it, because I would regret it if I let go of it and I didn't do anything.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, that was my thing.
That was it.
But I picked up something that genuinely feels. It's the only thing that I picked up in my life, comedy, that feels like it's what I need to be doing without a question.
Cool.
Like I've never had a doubt in my mind about stand-up comedy. I've never been like, what's plan B? I've never been like, what if that doesn't work? I've never said, maybe what am I doing? Am I wasting my time? Like even when I was wasting my time, I wasn't. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even when I was doing those terrible open mics and not getting booked for months and none of it felt like a waste of time. Yeah. It all was like, this is part of it. This is all part of the process.
Do you think that drive and passion for it and knowing that's the thing made you just more confident in your delivery, made your sets better? Or do you think, did that give you the drive to be like, I need to reach out to 20 people so I know that I'm on stage and I'm doing, it's kind of like the work side of it, or is it the attitude side of it?
that came. The work came later, naturally, by itself. Like learning to like reach out to people respectfully and not being annoying, because I definitely did it an annoying way, and I would get called out, being like, "Don't do it like that."
Sure.
Like, you know, people start to not like you. The older people in the scene are like, "What is this kid doing?" Right. And then you have to make those mistakes, because unfortunately, they haven't made a rule book for being a stand-up comedian.
You can do that.
Yeah, there's no.
Think of how many aspiring comedians there are.
Maybe
you can
make
do
a rule
that.
book. But it's one of those things where it's hard to, because there's no one started the same way.
Right.
Like, other than going to that's the only thing every comedian has in common. Every comedian went to an open mic and put their name in a hat. But then from there, it's just like, it's a launch pad. It goes so many different directions. You don't know where you're going. And for me,
Launchpad.
Yeah, it was a launch pad into, you know, your own thing. And like I said, I started to learn how to reach out to people in a respectful way. That all came. But like I said, it all just kind of felt like the process.
Yeah.
So I was never in a rush to get there.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where you can't learn it from a book. You have to just do it.
Yeah.
And you have to make the mistakes,
for sure.
and you have to be an ass and learn to not be an ass.
Yeah.
You have to get checked by people. And I'm still getting checked. I'm still making mistakes. And
you're 23.
Yeah, I'm 23 years old. I'm going to be doing
not
that
like
for
it's
a while.
an excuse, but it's just from an experience perspective. I mean, I feel like most stand-ups don't make it until
later,
way later on, in their late 30s, 40s, and beyond. Like, that's when they start to make it. I feel like you have plenty of time. I mean, obviously, let's try to rein in some of that energy.
Of course.
But you have time to make those mistakes. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I like it. I like the journey. I like the ride of it. And that's all very exciting.
So given your age and in how long you've been doing this, I feel like I've been a fan of comedy for longer, and there's definitely been a shift in comedy, and maybe this is something you study in school. I'm sure you're aware of it, but I feel like really over the last few years, crowd work has become such a big part of comedy. Do you think that helps or hurts comedy and comedians? Like, what do you think about it? Because I know I've talked with a few that think it's great because it suits them well, but one I had a conversation with thought it took away from the writing in the comedy, because you're so hyper focused on nailing that social media clip to get your name out there. It's like, what do you think about that? And then we're going to get into, how do you balance, I just thought of this question, how do you balance kind of like those, you have to get your name out there. You want stuff on social media that's going to go viral so you can book more and so you can continue doing your thing. But like, if that's not your style, if you don't like social media, like, how do you balance those things?
Well, I disagree with the people that say crowd work is ruining the art of comedy. What I will say it has done, it has changed the public opinion, the generic public opinion on stand-up comedy. A lot of people go to stand-up comedy shows now because they saw it on their algorithm, because they saw it on Instagram, they saw it on TikTok, which is bringing in a whole new demographic into stand-up. Stand-up is in a huge boom right now. Stand-up is bigger now than it's ever been. And maybe since like the 80s or 90s, or since like Carson and all that stuff. But it's bringing in this new young demographic, people who are 21, 22, 25, going out to comedy shows and being like, oh, I saw this clip of Matt Rife doing crowd work, or anyone on stage doing crowd work. They're like, oh, I hope the comedian picks on me. Maybe I'll say something to interrupt the comedian so they pick on me. And that's the negative effects of it.
Sure.
From the comedian's perspective, I think crowd work is important. I think if you're on stage for a long period of time, it's necessary. And I think it's engaging. And I think it's fun for both parties. Another thing is, I don't think it should be your intent. I can't speak for other. For me, I try not to make it my intent, and I try not to make it my goal to do crowd work when I go on stage. It only comes naturally.
Yeah.
I have an act. I have my jokes. I know how much time I have on stage. If I do crowd work, that means it's coming out of my time, which means it's coming out of the pool of jokes I had prepared for the act. So I'm constantly editing on stage live. I go on stage, I'm not like, okay, 3.5 minutes in, I'm going to ask that guy what he does for a living. It's like, it's no.
That's interesting thinking of it from like a zero-sum game where it's like saying one thing takes away from something else.
You're sacrificing your time when I do it. And you're risking your time because sometimes groundwork doesn't work.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works. And when it works, it's great.
What happens when it doesn't work?
It's just awkward for a second, but then
just get back
if
to
you're a
yourself.
professional, you just you have some sort of stock line that can pull you out of that. Where it's like, well, we're not going to be conversing today, and we get like right back into the act or something like that. And so when I go on stage, I know what jokes I'm going to say, but you have to read the room. So if I go on stage and I'm like, oh, the comic before me didn't do great, these guys aren't locked in, they're not wanting material. Sometimes you go on stage knowing that the audience doesn't want to hear your fucking material. So you have to go on stage and immediately make fun of the guy with the tight shirt in the front row. And you bully him a little bit, but it gets a little laugh. Yeah. Everyone's on the same page. He's laughing, we're all laughing, we're having a good time. And then you find some sort of natural flow into your act. Or if something happens in the audience during the act before yours, you call that back in the beginning. You start your act with a laugh based off something that happened in the room, which shows that you're present, you've been here, I'm here, you're here, let's stay together.
Yeah. I didn't realize how much strategy seems to go into each act. Like I've always thought it's like, here's your script, here are your jokes, you do them.
Exactly.
But it really sounds strategic, like real time, you're editing this in your head.
Totally.
And like that, it's part of quick wit. Like the best comics have a quick wit and are able to do crowd work, you would hope, at least. But that's interesting, like thinking of it from that strategic perspective.
Totally. And the other thing is like, you have to be so present on stage, and you can, and everyone can tell if you're not.
Sure.
Everyone can tell if you're like, hi, here are the jokes that I wrote. My cat the other day. It's like, we know you're doing an act.
Right.
Your goal as a comedian is to convince the audience that this is your first time telling these jokes. That's your goal. You want to make it sound like everything's just coming out of you naturally. I'm just naturally hilarious, and I just happen to have these constructed jokes at the top of my head. No. I've done these jokes 100,000 times.
Yeah.
Okay? It's a magic trick. It really is. It's a magic trick of me trying to convince 250 people that I've never told these jokes before, and they're all naturally in the moment, just coming out of what's happening in the room.
Yeah.
You see a couple on stage. How long you guys been together? Great. How'd you guys meet? Hinge. Oh, I have a joke about Hinge. We'll do the joke about Hinge right now. That's what I mean when I say I don't have an order. Or I'm always like, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Morocco. I'm Tunisian. Here's my Tunisian material. Oh, who are you with? My mom. I got material about my mom. Like, so cool. I like to do that. I like to use the audience as navigation through my act. And that will naturally lead to crowd work. If I hear someone sneeze, saying bless you is going to get a laugh. And then, you okay? We're good? Okay, we can keep going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you can just stay completely in the room, in the moment, it'll unlock such a different kind of performance, because basically you want to get to a point where your material is autopilot. I don't need to think about my material. I wrote it. I came up with it. I know what it is. It's not written down on paper. So there's no structure to it. There's no like, it has to go like this.
Yeah.
Some comedians are like that and it works for them. Seinfeld, he's to the point. He has every word written on a piece of paper. There's not a single comma that hasn't been pre-written. Mine is like, I'm just kind of mumbling, jumbling. I know where the punchline is. I can get there. I've done it a million times. I don't even need to think about the joke. Instead, I'm thinking about what's going on in the room.
Yeah.
So the jokes are coming from the back of my head. The front of my head's like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? Oh, what happened over here? That's funny. Let me tie that into this material. And it creates this organic flow. Now, sometimes I'm an ADHD freak. So sometimes that doesn't work. Yeah. And I spiral. And I'm like, and then your jokes go out of the back of your head, and you're gone, and you mess up. So
I understand
there's
that
definitely a risk to being right.
Oh yeah.
So there's definitely some sort of risk to being so nonchalant on stage, but there's way more of a reward.
Yeah.
And the risk reward is very much worth it.
So there's been a lot of like the success and the strategy, which is fascinating to me. What about when stuff doesn't land, or it landed with a bunch of people, but some shitheads on social media are like, you're the worst, you're not funny, and people telling you you're not funny or your stuff sucks, or why would you say something like that with, the temperature of comedy at times? How do you deal with that? And I'm guessing some of it probably comes from this is what you're doing, so you're doing it, and you do make plenty of people laugh, and you're there for them. But like, how do you deal with it? Does it impact you at all? Like, what would you tell aspiring comedians that are like in it, like doing the open mics that you talked about early on, how to like get through that crap?
They're right. Yeah. Anybody that says something shitty to you on social media, or anyone that doesn't agree with you or doesn't think you're funny, they're right. They're right. They can't be wrong. It's their opinion.
It's their opinion, sure.
So how can you argue that? They're right. But also the people that leave being like, you're my favorite comedian, that was so funny,
Right.
I'm coming back, or you get, but they're right.
So does it hurt your feelings
No.
when they're right? Okay, you're just like,
It doesn't.
you're not for
care.
me. Yeah.
I can't care.
Right.
How can I care?
I feel like at some point there had to be a comment or someone that was like, you suck, that got you a little bit.
Sure. Yes, sure. There's definitely been things have been said in the past, it's more people who, if you have someone that
Sure.
who personally, who has something like that to say, that stings
hurts.
a little bit.
Oh, I
you
understand
go,
that, yeah.
what a shame.
Yeah.
But then you go, you're right. Yeah, what am I going to tell you wrong? But then you got to remember, for me, is I remember who I'm doing it for. Who am I doing stand-up for? When I started doing stand-up, when I was 15 years old in my dad's living room, little kid, filled with hope and life and happiness. And
Same now.
Dreams, of course. And excitement and energy and no negativity. And I saw the world with sunshines and rainbows and goldfish and gummies and everything is happy, yuppie. Was I thinking, what's user 156,000 going to say? What is that guy in North Carolina with a profile picture with him and a dead duck? What?
I was wondering where you're going with that one.
What is he gonna think?
Yeah.
What? I don't care.
Right.
I look back, I go, who do I care about? I care about my immediate circle, my friends that give me opinions on comedy. I care about my mom. My mom watches everything I do. My dad. Those are the people I'm trying to impress the most in my life. Before they die, I want to do something that they can sit in the front row and see the dreams that they watched from the ground up.
Yeah.
I'm there for my best friends back at home who root for me every single day. I'm there for the comedy clubs that have given me opportunity every single day. I'm there for the people online who tell me that they look forward to my videos. Those are the people I'm doing it for.
Yeah.
And that is enough love and drive and excitement and thrill to just, you can't care about what's over here. There's no comedian in the world that every single person's like, yeah.
Right. For sure.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's such a subjective art form. Music is a little different. Where music, it's like, you can kind of hear something and go,
Right.
yikes.
Right.
Right?
There are good songwriters.
Of course, there's good songwriters, there's bad songwriters, and that is it's still subjective, but it's a little less. Comedy is it's a personal, very personal thing. And so not saying music isn't, but it's like, it's such an easier thing to judge.
Right.
Is to watch someone and go, that's so
Yeah, I
not
hear
funny.
that, yeah.
Because you're not relying on, it's also not something you can practice. You can't practice doing stand-up comedy.
Right.
The only way to practice doing stand-up comedy is by doing stand-up comedy. I can't take a microphone in my room and do my act. Sure, I can, but it's not going to do anything.
Right.
But you could bring a guitar in your room and master it, and then once you master it, take it onto the stage. But you got to learn to master it in front of strangers who are ready to judge you.
Yeah.
And
hard.
Judge you hard.
So hard.
Literally, you walk on stage, 200 people going, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
What do you got?
Oh, yeah.
And that can get scary, but it also conditions you to be like, focus on the people that are rooting for you.
Yeah.
And if you do that, the people that hate don't
That's
matter.
always resonated with me. There was a book I read early in my entrepreneur days. This is Marketing by Seth Godin. And basically the premise is you should be creating whatever you're doing, make the best version of it for the people that care the absolute most, and don't worry about the rest. Like, don't try to get everybody to love it. Don't worry about it. Don't make stuff for everybody. But if you make your best product, your best thing for those that love it and want it the most, that's what's going to spread. And he had some fascinating stats. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was right around the time where Game of Thrones was, I thought, blowing up
Popping.
like everywhere. It was the biggest thing happening. And then he provided the actual numbers of how many people watched it. And it was like 6% of the US. I'm like, what?
I haven't watched it.
It blew my mind. And there were a bunch of those stats. But for those that are in that Game of Thrones world, it's everything. And they made a ton of money and, had spin-offs and everything that came because of that, and them focusing on those that live and breathe Game of Thrones. I thought that was so interesting.
It's super fascinating, and it's the kind of thing where, like I said, one of my favorite things to do after a comedy show is to go in the lobby, if it goes well. If it doesn't go, I'm going out the back door.
Obviously.
I'm running home.
Yeah.
Running home. And
now biking. You just got a new bike.
Yeah, I'll leave the bike. I'll get it tomorrow. I got to get out of there. I don't have time. I can't unlock the bike in front of all these people. It's so embarrassing. Meeting people and putting a face to the laugh is my favorite thing to ever. And shaking a hand.
Yeah.
And them looking at me and being like, "That was really fun. Thank you so much."
Cool.
And then I go, "That's all you need."
Right.
These are your people.
That keeps going.
And maybe they don't come back. Maybe you never see them again. But you know that this random person liked your stuff.
Yeah.
Which means you have something.
And that's
you
what
did
you'll
something.
remember too. Like, you'll remember that. You won't remember the guy that didn't come up and shake your hand, or
Exactly.
that didn't laugh.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The faces I remember the most aren't the people that walked out and gave me a glare. It's the people that stopped and were like, "What's your name?
Right.
Where can I see you again?"
Yeah.
And those are the people that you genuinely, it feels like family. You're just
Right.
excited to see them. You're like, "Thank you for being here. That was for you," in a way.
What do you think it is about your stage presence or energy that does connect with people and gets them to come up and shake the hand? Is it the kindness that we talked about? Is it the strategy and nailing the set? Is there, 'cause this boils down to like the style of how you deliver it and the style of you as a person. It's like, how can you like definitively say like you're connecting with somebody through this style?
I think it's the energy. Like I said, I bring a lot of energy, and I try to channel my mom's. My mom works with a lot of different people, and when people walk into her store, she's a fashion like merchant. When people walk into her boutique, she's like, "Hi,
so good to see you."
And like, she's. Just
I hope she does that every time.
A lot of tututus, and she's just excited to see people, and that excitement is something that most people aren't used to.
Right.
From a stranger.
Right.
How often do you go up to a stranger and they go, "Hi"?
Yeah.
You don't ever see it. So when you come on stage and you're genuinely excited, it's not like I'm putting it on. I'm genuinely excited to see these people, and they can feel that, and I can feel them feeling it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, this guy's happy to be here. This guy's happy to be in front of us, so we're happy to listen.
Yeah.
And then if it goes well, then it's like, this guy's happy to be here. This guy's happy to see us. We're happy to listen. And it was fun.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we want to meet?
Yeah.
Let's go meet. That's like having a really good date, like a great date, and then being like, "Never call me again."
Right.
It's like, that's not going to happen.
Not gonna happen.
You're gonna want to see each other again.
The energy, that's been one of my big things that I live and die by. It's positivity, energy, and the kindness. But energy has, like, being willing to, like, a second of courage to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that you've mentioned, a surprise. The one thing that it was one of my favorite things. I'm the type that, like, if somebody's on a bench at Millennium Park, I've done this numerous times. So if you happen to be sitting alone on a bench eating ice cream or doing whatever, I'm probably going to come up to you if I'm there, and I'll start talking for a while and just I'll say ridiculous things, do ridiculous things. But one of my favorites, there was a woman that was taking pictures right in front of the bean, and she was a little ways off, so that when she went like this, she was like holding the bean, but her arms were just spread out wide. I walk up and I just give her the biggest bear hug, and she was so confused, and I'm like, "Oh my God, am I gonna get arrested?"
Yeah.
But moments later, we all started cracking, like everybody around just started cracking up.
See, if I did that, people would go, "What is this Arab grabbing me for? Am I a hostage? What is going on?" But yeah, it's people enjoy a strange interaction.
Sure.
In a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something they won't forget.
Exactly. They will always remember that. She will always remember.
She'll always remember
Next time she's in Millennium Park, she will be on the lookout.
She'll be on the lookout. She'll be like, "Oh God, it's gonna
hug
happen
me again."
But a connection with a stranger is a special thing, and I think it's something everyone looks forward to.
Yeah. Comedy's not just entirely about laughs. It's like it's the vibe of getting people to feel better, leave their crap at home and just experience something kind of different and to embrace, some value or feeling that you gave them. Like, how do you try to inspire people to do more, or is it just you just want people to feel happy and just glad to be there in that moment? You talked about just presence. So do you try to get people to feel a certain way? Do you want them to go out and do something, like be kind to your friends and neighbors type of thing?
I don't care what they do once they leave the comedy club.
Cool.
But what I do care about is when I walk into a comedy club, I don't think, I'm going to go and then I'm going to make their day. I'm going to make them forget about their dead dog and their mortgage. That's my goal. I go in there and I go, I know what I like. I know what I want to do in there. I want to go have fun. I want them to have fun. Let's do that. And if I can just lock into that moment, everything will happen naturally. Like, I'm never on stage being like, these people are having fun in the back of my head. I'm never going, I'm in the moment.
Right.
I'm in the moment. And I'm in the moment and they're in the moment. And you don't realize that until after the set.
Sure.
When reality comes rushing back to you.
Yeah.
Because when I'm up there, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm not thinking about my rent. I'm not thinking about the tickets in my car. I'm not thinking about, my credit card bill. I'm not thinking about what I need to get from the grocery store.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about what I'm going to say next in this microphone that is on videotape. Oh no.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense. Like, based on what you were saying, again, I didn't think of it from a strategic perspective or that zero sum game, but if you're in it like that, you have to be that focused. And I guess that's a great goal of, if you're having fun, other people will have fun, and then all their problems disappear
for a second. And then you get off stage, and like I said, everything comes rushing back in, and then the show's over, and the lights turn back on, and people are walking out of the lobby, and they got a little smile on their face. No one ever leaves a comedy show unless it was a bad comedy show. But if it was a good comedy show, people are leaving with a little smile on their face. I go, thank you so much. I go, thank you. And it feels like we took a break for an hour.
Yeah.
We just took a little break from everything. And now we're parting ways to go back into the world. We go, see you later. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah.
And I hope that joy or whatever they got out of this, the drunkenness, the buzz, they drank, they ate. I just hope whatever they got from the comedy club that night follows them home a little bit. Sure. I don't know what they're going to do with it. I just hope they don't just go do something.
Do you see social media as a way for them to continue connecting with them, or is social media for comedians or for you a tool and means for promotion?
Both, for sure, for promotion. I mean, but also it's a way to connect with the comedian and the audience on a deeper level. I love getting messages after the show. Like, after the show, I go in my inbox and it's like, hey, great show tonight. Thank you so much. When can I see you again? And I go, hey, here's my schedule. I'd love to see you again. So there's definitely that connection aspect that you get outside the club. But then there's the promotion. When I post a clip, I posted a clip for the people that can't be at the show, who I care about. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking about. I go, oh, my friends are going to see this. Oh, my mom's going to see this. Oh, my dad's going to see this. My family's going to see this. But I go, then everyone else is going to see it. I don't really care as much about what everyone else has to say about it. I hope it brings people to a show.
Yeah.
But when I initially post something, it's for the people that I personally care for who can't see it. I go, hey, here's what I did tonight. And that's when I started my social media. That's what it was for. Now my social media has grown a little bit. So, I have a little bit more of a public eye on my stuff. And it's cool. I mean, it's great. Whatever. There's definitely a little bit more pressure. But, you post it to, you want people to come to a show. You want to build that followers. Even if it's just, because I'm not in a place where, I'm pulling my own crowds everywhere I go. But when I do have someone come to a show that's there to see me because they found me online,
cool.
And then you get to meet them in person, it is a cool feeling. I don't care if it's one person a show, 5 people a show. Sometimes it's a lot more.
That's awesome.
But the times where it's just randomly like, so I'll get a message like, hey, I'm coming to your show at Laugh Factory tonight. It's like, oh, cool. And then afterwards, like, thanks for the tickets. I messaged you earlier. And I'm like, this is super cool.
Yeah, that's
like
awesome.
This random person just happened to find me in their living room and they're like, let's go see this person.
Yeah. Does the pressure from your growing social media and just kind of social media in general and like the expectations to continually be posting, do you feel that ever changes you or changes your strategy at all? Not from the joke perspective, but like how much you have to do something. Are there certain things that just hit way better on social media? You know, like what does the pressure do to make you either conform or stick to yourself?
I would have a completely different answer for you if you asked me this question 2 months ago.
Oh, okay. I want to hear both answers.
So if you asked me this in May or June of this year, I would have said, yes, the pressure is definitely getting bigger, and now there's this expectation, and now I have this platform, so people are expecting me to use my platform for good and to share my voice on things and blah, 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 blah. That's what would be my answer. Then this summer, I started to feel a little overwhelmed by that, and because my platform really started to grow the most in May of this year. So I started to feel that pressure a little bit, and then I started seeing myself working for my social media, not my social media working for me.
Sure.
My social media is meant to be a tool to help me, not the other way around, where it's like, oh, I need to help social media.
What made you realize that?
I just started to feel really overwhelmed, and my purpose started to feel like, oh, I gotta do my stand-up to get this. I gotta get more footage out. I gotta do more editing. And then I was like, and then I started to dread it a little bit. For the first time ever, I started to dread doing stand-up a little bit. Where I was like, well, that's not why I started all of this at all. I just got a little taste of, acceptance from the public eye, and it made me chase that a little bit, and it made me go, ooh, let me get more of that. Ooh, let me get more of that. It's like a drug.
So you are getting more of that, though. Are you worried or concerned, or have you thought about what happens when you do blow up and you're everywhere, and does that worry you, or has this shift that's happened in the last 2 months kind of set you free?
I think I'm in a completely different mindset. I went camping for 30 days. And
where to?
California. I did a road trip with my 3 best friends, and we all we do a trip every summer, but this summer it was kind of like we had 4 people going on this trip for 4 different reasons. So we all had personal reasons for wanting to be on this trip.
Yeah.
Some people, it was a sense of adventure. Some people, it was a sense of wanting a break. Some people, it was a sense of, wanting to collect these stories and things and experiences. And for me, it was for growth and to disconnect. I felt so too connected. Yeah. Into the world, as in social media. I felt too plugged into everything. I felt like I was in 25 different places at once, because I'm here with this person, I'm texting this person while planning this, knowing that I have to do that. Sure. Whoa. Yeah. It was too much. It was way too much at one point, where June of this year, I was like, it literally felt like I said, I'd be hanging out with a person, knowing what I had to do later. While I'm hanging out with that person, I'm texting this person about the thing I need to do tomorrow, while also thinking about what I'm going to say tonight at that show. I wasn't in the moment ever. Yeah. I never found myself being in the moment. Even when I have house parties, I'd be in the kitchen being like, what's going on in the living room? What's going on in the kitchen? Let me go walk around. Let me go check what's going on. I could not find myself locking into the moment anymore, like I did when I was first starting stand-up. So I knew I had to go on this trip. Went on this trip, turned my phone off. I didn't use my phone really ever. I think my screen time was under half an hour every day.
How did that feel?
Amazing.
Oh,
and
goodness.
And you're with your 4 best friends, or 3 best friends, 4 total, and you're in the woods and you're in nature, and I caught myself accidentally being in the moment without even doing anything. I just found myself looking around, taking something in, laughing, and not thinking about anything else. And that feeling of emptiness, in a good way, a positive emptiness of like, oh, I feel empty inside because everything I have is right now. So there's nothing else. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to do after this. I'm not thinking about where I need to be tonight. I'm not thinking about who I need to call in an hour. I'm purely thinking about right now. And it gave me a whole new view on life, and a whole new excitement, and a whole new mindset of, I'm so young. I don't need to chase anything. Nothing I've done to this point that success came from me chasing anything.
Right.
It came from me doing something my way naturally, and everything just happening for itself. Posting a clip that I was like, that's kind of funny, and then it going mega viral.
Right.
I didn't think about that. I didn't think, I need to overanalyze how are we going to make this viral. No, I just was doing my thing, and everything came naturally.
Yeah.
So I started thinking about that, reflecting on that. Also, I cared way too much about people, what were in a way of like what people were thinking about me. Like, I know, like, you try not to care, but in the back of your head, you're still like, you walk in a room, you go, what are these people thinking?
Definitely.
Yada, yada, yada. And then this trip completely wiped all of that. And this trip taught me to just be there and be good. Be good to people around you. Do the things that you love. Be in the moment. Enjoy that laugh. Enjoy that beer until it's completely gone.
Hell yeah.
Don't worry about your next beer.
There you go.
Don't worry about, where you're biking to. Worry about that bike ride. Have fun on that bike ride. Like the whole way here, it was a completely different feeling than if I was biking here 2 months ago. I would have been like, I'm going to be late. Where am I going?
Yeah.
It just kind of felt like I was looking at people
Enjoying
smiling.
it, yeah.
I was watching couples. I was watching the cars pass. I was like, that's a nice car. And like being in the moment and like fully absorbing that has completely changed the way I'm thinking about everything. So I don't feel that pressure from social media anymore, because now I'm like, it's there. The following is there.
Right.
I have a decent following on social media. I'm going to keep posting. If you don't like how little I post, or if I'm not posting a clip every week, or, here's a photo of me camping instead of me on stage.
Right.
If you don't like that too much, that's okay. You don't have to be here.
Right.
Just go.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. I don't feel pressure to have to serve.
Yeah.
I feel like if I'm my authentic self, I will get my authentic crowd.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's an incredible style, and to have that kind of wisdom and the wherewithal to realize all of this at 23 is insane. Mm-hmm. And just sets you up. So like, how are you going to use this to evolve your style, or does your style just stay similar and you just hone in the art of what you're currently doing, or do you see it evolving as you continue?
There's like it's a big transition period in my life. So right now, I walk in, and I repeat certain words to myself in my head. I hear my mom's voice in my head going, "Don't give everyone your 100%. Keep your head down a little bit. Humility. Stay humble. Stay positive. Stay kind.
Yeah.
Stay funny.
Stay funny."
And I know, like, if I walk into a comedy club with that, I walk around. I'm kind to people. I'm nice to people. I go on stage. I do my job. I do it well. I come off stage, and I'm kind of just there in a more chill, less aggressive manner. I used to walk in and be like, "Hi, everyone. How are you? What's going on? Hey.
Yeah.
And now, like, I'm definitely calming down a little bit. I'm aging a little bit. I can feel myself kind of, flowing into myself. I can feel a natural flow picking up. And yeah. So I think just walking in and going in with the intent of leaving a positive vibe and a good impact on stage is all I'm really chasing right now. I'm not really chasing the success anymore.
Cool.
I'm more chasing the process.
Yeah. That's a great way to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
That ultimately is usually what leads to success.
Totally.
People that master what they're doing and
enjoying the journey.
Stick true to themselves. Like, you get more out of that too as a creator, as an entertainer. You get the most out of that when you're not worrying about the following. It's like, what advice would you give aspiring comedians, entertainers? Even, I feel a lot of it generally falls into entrepreneurs as well, but staying true to yourself, dealing with the objections when there's a lot of pressure, what's the best way to get started and to stick true to themselves?
Just do it every day. Just do it. I wish I could just go back to 18-year-old me who was so stressed out about doing it. How do I do it? Where do I do it? When do I do it? How often do I do it? Just do it.
Yeah.
If you just do it and you do it with your heart, you won't have any questions.
Action. Action leads to more action.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love the word action.
It's a great word.
Big action guy.
Action and funny. Funny action.
But yeah, that's like any young comedian I meet who are like, oh, I'm so excited, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, good. That's good. Be excited and don't not be. If you're not excited anymore, stop and come back.
Yeah.
Don't, if it ever feels forced, stop.
Come back or switch.
Or switch it up. I love taking a break. Like that camping trip, coming back, I'll never forget that feeling of getting back on stage. I came back on a Thursday morning and I had a show a Thursday night at the Comedy Store. And it was a sold out show. And I was like, I haven't been on stage. I went from going on stage almost every night to not performing for a whole month.
Yeah.
I was like nervous, which was a good thing. I was like, whoa, I'm never nervous before I go on stage.
Good.
So it's like,
it's healthy.
And I just remember going back up and being like, leaving was the best thing I ever did.
That's awesome.
To leave stand up and come back to it. Because I was in the moment where I was not excited to walk into a comedy club.
Sure.
I was not excited to be on stage. I was overwhelmed. I was stressed. And so to leave when it's right and then come back when it's right is the best thing you can do for yourself.
That's awesome.
The people that start to, there's that stigma, comedians are all miserable and dead inside. It's like, yeah, because those comedians went through phases where they hated it and they hated themselves. And instead of working on themselves and working on that, they were like, I'm just going to go back on stage and bury it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, leave. If it's hurting you, leave.
Do
it's
something
like a
for
toxic,
yourself too.
comedy can be a toxic relationship sometimes where it feels abusive. But then you're like, but I love him. It's like, shut up. It doesn't care. Comedy doesn't care about me.
Right.
Comedy will, if I die tomorrow, you think comedy is going to come to my funeral? No. Maybe some comedians will.
There you go.
But it doesn't care. It doesn't need me.
I would take a few comedians. Like
right?
That's pretty
you
solid
need a few.
too.
But yeah, in my opinion, comedy doesn't need you, so don't act like you need comedy.
Yeah.
You need to be in a good feng shui.
For the listeners that kind of want to embrace their own unique style, whether it's work, life, play, whatever it is, what's the one piece of advice you would give them to live their like authentic, true style today?
In comedy or in general?
In general. Or both. We'll take both. There's some comedian right now, some aspiring comedian that's listening to this saying, this piece of advice Josh just said changed my life. No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. I guess mine is personal. But mine is I go back to my mom and dad. They know me better than anybody. And you look at your closest circle and the person they know. Those people love you in a way no one else in your life ever will, other than maybe a spouse or a new lifelong friend you meet in your 20s and you know them till your 80s. But those people know you so well. So if you ever feel lost, you don't know who you are, get on the phone with those people. Talk. It'll remind you. And I needed that when I went home and I went on that vacation. That those three boys I went on that trip with mean the absolute world to me.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't a day that I was around them where I questioned who I was. Because they remind you. They remind you who you are, and they remind you why they love you.
Sure.
And everybody needs that because it's a lonely world. I mean, it is. You can have a girlfriend, you can have friends, whatever. But as soon as I leave this podcast, I'm alone. I'm gonna walk home alone. I'm gonna bike home, new bike, Schwinn, and I'm gonna be alone.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be on my phone. There's not gonna be anyone that knows exactly where I am, and we're totally solo players in this world. So it's so important to remind yourself of your roots, where you come from, and those people love you for who you are because those people knew you before you did.
Sure.
In a way.
Yeah.
So looking back at that is what I consistently remind myself of every day. If someone's judging me for something I did, I look back and I think of my mom, like, why would these people hate me if my mom loves me? And it's like, because these people don't know me.
Yeah.
And they're judging you based off of one action, one thing you said, one thing you did. While there's these other people who are judging you for the way you've acted in an average over 23 years.
Yeah.
And looking back at those roots and surrounding yourself with that will give you a lot more drive, motivation, and push than you could ever imagine, in my opinion.
That is beautiful. Very profound. It sounds like these last 2 months and that trip, completely life-changing. I feel like I wish I could take a month off, but 2 daughters and a wife.
Yes.
Makes it a little difficult,
Yes.
but I think there were so many things I learned during this conversation. I absolutely loved it. I mean, the strategy, the zero sum, the connecting with your circle. I think that's fantastic advice for everybody living their own authentic style. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, Grant.
Hang tight. We're going to do some bonus footage.
Cool.
And then,
Bonus footage.
Mike, can you switch to the... It went more prompter stuff. And I paused so that there was a second to edit.
Cool. Well, that was great. That was fun.
And that's not even
That's not even the nitty-gritty of it.
That's not even the next part of the fun. Viewers and listeners, we've had such an amazing and lovely conversation today with Josh Thomas, talking about the power of style and how it shapes who we are, helps us connect with others, and pushes us towards success. Josh's journey is a perfect example of how embracing your authentic self, whether it's in comedy or whatever aspect in life, can lead to amazing things. We're going to continue our conversation with Josh over on Patreon, so don't miss the juicy, potentially salacious topics we have coming up. Salacious. And if you're watching, be sure to subscribe, and if you're listening, be sure to subscribe. That way next week and every week after, you'll get more inspiring stories and conversations about style, success, and everything in between. Thanks for joining us on House of Style. I'll see you next week. And remember, style isn't in your closet, it's in you.